Welcome to this month's Sounds from Scotland. I'm Camilla Hellman, President of the American Scottish Foundation, and I'm delighted today that we're going to be joined by one of our very illustrious members, Iain Sutherland. He is a conductor and composer, and he has had an illustrious, wonderful career. But the reason we've asked him to join us today is he also has a wonderful album of Christmas carols, the Beatlecracker, that we're going to share with you, that is bound to get you in the mood for the holidays. And so, hello, Iain. Good afternoon. I hope you're well.
Hello, Camilla, and hello to all members of the ASF. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we were delighted to receive the album because we played it at our Christmas carols event the other week. And we thought we put it into our newsletter, and we thought, well, what could be better for our Sounds from Scotland this month than to hook up with you?
Well, anything which is a hookup with all my fellow clansmen in America and Canada and indeed all over the world is always a great pleasure. I have an album which I sent you a couple of years ago called Hail Caledonia, Scotland in Music. And I chose at that time to stick completely to Scottish compositions and Scottish arrangements. But on this occasion, it's a Christmas cracker. But lots and lots of different types of music. There's light music, there's heavier music. I've even included, which is virtually unknown, the Beatlecracker suite, which is based upon Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker suite, in which the arranger, brilliant, brilliant man, has taken songs of the Beatles and rearranged them as though they were directly from the Nutcracker suite. When you hear With Love From Me to You, Can't Buy Me Love, She Loves You, and All My Loving, they are all written as though they were movements from the Nutcracker suite.
So shall we lead off with that? That sounds like a very good idea.
Yes, yes.
So let's do that.
That would get us in the mood.
Yes, so let's hear a little bit from and what is the title of that composition in the album?
The Beatlecracker suite.
Oh, what could be easier? The Beatlecracker suite it is. Thank you. Welcome back to our next wonderful moments with Iain Sutherland. Iain, what we didn't touch upon a few minutes ago was your illustrious career. I mean, it is a long, wonderful plethora of moments. And I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about some of those highlights of some of the great orchestras you've conducted, and how, for instance, Hail Caledonia came to be, which is really a beautiful, beautiful album.
Well, Camilla, if I may, I have been a professional musician ever since I left the Royal Scottish Academy of Music. I left Glasgow and went to London because I was a very good and very fine violinist. And for the first 10 years of my career, I played with all the finest London symphony orchestras under the greatest conductors of the time, Thomas Beecham, Otto Klemperer, men of that stature, Sir Adrian Boult. And I also became a session man. That is, means you are picked to play on commercial sessions, particularly the big movies. So I played in big movies conducted by Dmitri Tyomkin and Bronislav Kapper, Malcolm Arnold, so many people like that. And during these 10 years, I was bitten by the bug, as it were, of wanting to be the guy on the podium rather than the guy sitting in the orchestra. So I got some of these wonderful session musicians together and approached the BBC for an audition. Well, with players like that, the audition was very, very simple. But immediately, almost immediately, I should say, I was sent for and taken to lunch by the head of light music at the BBC at the time. You may remember that the light side of the BBC was actually called the Light Programme. And during lunch, we talked about music, and we talked about my career, and he said, well, Iain, this is what I want you to think of. Rather than just auditioning with a session orchestra, how would you like to return to your native Scotland and become the conductor of the BBC Scottish Radio Orchestra in Glasgow? Well, I couldn't turn that down, Camilla. That was the beginning. So for the next 7 or 8 years, I was back in Glasgow with my wife. I had 3 little boys by that time. And I had an absolutely wonderful time back in my native Scotland. And I got the opportunity, which I'd never had before, being a very, very straight classical musician, to indulge myself in some light entertainment with wonderful Scottish artists like Stanley Baxter and Jimmy Logan and Andy Stewart, and also Scotland's 2 great solo singers who had long-running TV shows, Maura Anderson and Kenneth McKellar. But I had to leave because this onwards and upwards feeling that I always had drew me back to London. I was very, very well thought of in Glasgow and Scotland in general, but I needed to find out if I could make the same grade in London. Well, very, very quickly, I was asked to become a guest conductor of the BBC Concert Orchestra, which had a top flight program called Friday Night is Music Night, which was played live every Friday night for 2 hours. and I conducted Friday night as music night for the following 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
During which, of course, the radio stations all over Europe, Scandinavia, knowing of my name by then, which was never out of the radio times and never seemed to be off the airwaves, to make many, many guest appearances all over Europe. And that these were broadcasts, both radio and television, which in turn led to the other great orchestras of Europe inviting me as a guest conductor with them. And eventually, I think I played in all the great cities: Vienna, Berlin, Oslo. I couldn't possibly name them. As far afield as Rio de Janeiro and Cape Town in South Africa. It really was a worldwide career, and I played with some wonderful orchestras and some wonderful musicians. And whenever I get the opportunity, even although I'm sort of semi-retired now, I still do the same. Although I spend more time now in the recording studio than I do on the concert platform.
So one of the things you did mention about this world we now live in of downloads is we miss the liner notes, the background notes. Just as you've been telling me, this background, I knew, of course, of this illustrious career, but to hear this in-depth explanation is something that liner notes would have given me.
Of course.
It's awful. That's a very big missing element.
It is indeed a deep missing element, and I'm hoping that the recording labels, the two recording labels for which I work, will not be too moved by the downloading. You see, the downloading is really for pop music, where instead of people wanting a CD with 12 or 14 or even 20 different songs on them, they want the big number one. And by streaming and downloading, they don't need to buy the whole CD. They can just stream the big pop song. Well, that's no use for my kind of album, you know, which has a theme. And all of the 20 or 16 or whatever it is titles I have on this album, it's Christmas. It's got a theme.
But you know, vinyl's back. Vinyl is back, and that gives you the opportunity to tell those stories and to do more of the biography side of it and the wonderful richness of the background.
Well, could I tell you some of what would have been the liner notes?
Well, I think before we do that, you need to tell me one piece of music that we are going to then play for everybody, and then we're going to come back and hear a bit more. So what would you like us to play next?
From the album, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
From the album, yes. Well, it's difficult for me to choose because I love them all. But there is an interesting story behind Ave Maria. This particular Ave Maria, as we all know, was written by Gounod to a theme by Bach. However, the other Ave Maria, which we all know and love, was written by Schubert. Now, not many people know that that particular Ave Maria was written by Schubert as background music to Sir Walter Scott's um, Walter Scott's poem, The Lady of the Lake,
Oh,
when it was performed in Germany in German, in the German translation. So Ave Maria is something which is very, very close to the heart of Scotland, because when she goes into the cave on the side of Loch Lomond to pray that her father and the man she loves one may not be killing the other, she sings an Ave Maria in the poem. Schubert immediately turned that into this everlasting song.
well, let's now take a listen to Ave Maria. And so we're now back again with this fascinating spotlight and conversation with Iain Sutherland. Iain, wow. I mean, what a wonderful, I'm so glad we're having this time together to hear of all that you have been doing, but also all that you are doing. So you're spending, you say, most of your time in the studio now. Is that going back at past recordings and augmenting them? And what is coming next? How are you handling this phase?
Some of them are re-recordings. Some of them are recordings which I have made in, Hilversum, Hanover, so many places in Europe, in the great recording studios of Europe and the great orchestras of Europe. But some of them are more than 20 years old, so they have to be brought up to date. So we have to go back to the studio for that. The modern sound,
Right.
modern studio techniques.
And so what are you currently? Christmas Cracker's out. What is coming down the pipeline for you?
Well, I have already completed a Viennese album because next year is the 200th anniversary of Johann Strauss II, the Waltz King. And in Vienna, I think every single day of the 365 days will be devoted to something by the Waltz King, all over the country, not just in Vienna. And I decided that I would show my love of the music of Vienna
Fabulous.
by putting an album by a British orchestra playing Viennese music on the
And
market.
who is the British orchestra that you feature in this?
Well, it's a studio orchestra, you see. Once again, I go back to my old friends, or at least my new friends, the studio players, the session men. And I call it the Iain Sutherland Concert Orchestra.
Wonderful. And who are you recording with at the moment? What labels are you working with?
The two labels I work with are Musical Concepts, which perhaps is better known as Alto, ALTO,
Right.
and a small but very, very highly regarded label called SOM, SOM. Now that
Right.
is one is very much light music, and the other is very much classical music. There's too
Well,
much of a division in the musical world between the world of light music and the world of classical, so-called classical music. It's terrible to put labels on things because as far as music is concerned, there's good music and there's bad music. And they are in
and
every
there's
genre.
timeless music.
Sorry?
And there's timeless
Timeless music. Timeless music. You know. Now, I did some recordings, back in the 90s of Viennese music when the great composer Robert Stolz was still alive. And his wife, Einzig Stolz, was extremely well known in Vienna on television, writing for magazines, and arranging all over the world Robert's concerts. So I sent her my my recording, which I called Waltzing in the Clouds, because that was a very, very famous tune that Robert Stoltz wrote for Deanna Durbin in one of her great movies,
Right.
Waltzing in the Clouds. I'm sure you know it. I'm sure you've sung it. Well, I got a letter back from Iain Stoltz saying, dear Maestro, you have the golden arm for the music of Vienna. I have never been so moved in my life that the wife of a great Viennese composer should tell me that.
Well, I mean, this has been such an inspiring talk with you, but we're going to now finish off with some of your wonderful tunes from a medley from the album Beatlecracker, which everybody can go to their favorite downloads and find and download and enjoy. And it just fills the home with joy at this time of year, which we all need. And I look forward to returning to talk with you further about the inspiring journey you've had and are having in music, and to share that with our members. And I'm so proud that you are a member of the American Scottish Foundation.
Oh, I'm proud of it too. Yes, yes.
And you are a you have a role within the Sutherland clan, don't you?
I am the honorary vice president of Clan Sutherland.
Wonderful.
The president is the Earl of Sutherland.
I know.
And I am the honorary vice president.
And he has come out to New York several times, and I've had the pleasure of spending time speaking with him. So we're delighted that you need to come out and enjoy the Tartan Day Parade with us.
Oh my goodness, I would love to do that. Yes.
The Sutherland's March.
Yes.
So, that would be fun. But
I try to get to the clan gatherings whenever I can.
Oh, good. So to a very happy Christmas to you. And now to hear some final songs from carols from the Beatlecracker. Thank you so much, Iain.
What should I choose?
Oh, do you want to choose? That would be even better for us. Could you choose?
Or have you chosen?
Two. No, you give us two choices.
Here's something that your American listeners will be very pleased to hear. We all know the Sleigh Ride by Leroy Anderson.
Yes.
Well, but did you know, and I've written this down, Sleigh Ride by Leroy Anderson is the most performed and recording composition by a wider range of artists than any other piece in the history of Western music.
Well, then we'll have Sleigh Ride.
Yeah,
and what is,
Sleigh Ride will be getting played all the time.
Okay, and one other to play us out after that.
I think probably The Waltz of the Snowflakes from the Nutcracker Suite.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You can get your ballet shoes on. And
exactly. So let's start this with Sleigh Bells and then waltz. And then and the waltz to finish.
The waltz.
Thank you so much. And a very happy Christmas to everyone.
Can I wish you a happy Christmas in the language of our ancient Celtic background?
Please.
I'm going to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in Gaelic. Nollaig chriel agus blianava úr. To all listeners.
Thank you.